Stop and shop. Works well. That's effective.
But supposedly there is that code thing that kind of really submits this staff.
Interesting.
Okay, it's 6 p.m. and we are live, and I'll call the meeting to order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, June 28th. If we would, at this time, please rise for our invocation, followed by our pledge. Thank you for coming to do this tonight.
Sure. Let's pray together. Father, we thank you that you have allowed us to live in such a great place. And we are thankful that we have elected officials who have been entrusted with responsibility of making decisions and leading. And Lord, we pray for them tonight as we enter into this time of decision making and meeting. Lord, that it will be a productive time. Lord, that it will be a time where wise decisions are made and people's opinions are respected, whether they agree or don't agree. We know that sometimes happens, but Lord, we pray that your peace will reign, and Lord, when it's all said and done, the decisions will be made for your glory, your honor, and for the best of this community. We give you this time, and we thank you for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. If you join me in the pledge, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening. Let's see. Next on the agenda are public comments, and my eyesight's good. We don't have any this evening. So next on the agenda, gentlemen, is the consent agenda. Under tonight's consent, you have approval of the June 1st, 2022 work session meeting minutes, approval of the June 14th work session minutes, approval of the June 14th regular meeting minutes, and approval of the fiscal year 2023 government agencies budget. And there is a resolution for that approval. So with that, I have a motion on the consent.
Mr. Chairman, for a motion, if I won't be able to vote on everything, I was present for the 6-1.
All right. So is there a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
I need to abstain from the 1 June meeting because I did not attend the work session on 1 June. But I agree with the rest of it.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Excluding June 1, yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay, moving on. New business. Item E is discussion of curbside yard waste collection. And Ms. Prather is here tonight to participate in that discussion. She had requested to be placed on the agenda. Jason, you want to kickstart the conversation, or do you want to?
Mr. Chairman, I sure don't mind. Ms. Prather and I, we had a lovely, probably hour-long conversation when she came to sign up for the agenda, but I think she's certainly got some things that she wants to discuss with the board, and I'm fine to be part of that conversation. But like I said, I don't often have the opportunity to engage citizens at that level. We had I think we spent close to an hour together and potentially agreed to disagree with each other. But I do think that she signed up on the agenda because she had some things she wanted to address with you. So.
Okay. Well, Ms. Price, if you don't mind, if you just come up here so everybody can see you on the YouTube channel, and so you want to talk to us about curbside yard waste collection down in your neighborhood?
Yes, good evening. My name is Betty Frazier, and I'm here tonight seeking a resolution to the request that I made back in March to extend the sanitation service to include yard debris, the leaves and the small tree branches. And during those meetings, I was here March and April talking, I had mentioned that in my community, we have only two choices of getting rid of yard debris. One is to hire someone, and the other one is to burn it. Now, right now, the Georgia...
Our software in the field and expand
The Georgia Environmental Protection Department Division has issued the summer burn ban that started May 1st through September 30th. And I just want to pause right here and say that I do agree with that ban. My only wish is that it was 12 months, really, instead of the 5, because of the health risk to our families, our properties, and the environment. So, I just want to, I've been studying some things. I also told you that I was coming home and someone was outside burning and I couldn't breathe. They weren't on my street, but as I approached it, I just couldn't breathe. And that's because, as you know, smoke is not contained. It can go here, and we're just a step across from the city. So our community is not the only one that's being affected by it. And I just wanted to just talk just a little bit more about that, because in my studies, I found several groups. There are lots of them that have done studies. I just chose a couple of them because they're all consistent in what they're talking about. And that is that now this is from the Georgia Environmental Protection Division, how they're talking about how the pollution and the fire and the smoke from the fire causes heart disease, lung problems, asthma, and things like that. Another study I'd like to just talk about a little bit. This is from Wisconsin, this Department of Natural Resources. And it talk about the impact of smoke from burning wood and leaves. The same thing, that people that are exposed to these pollution, they experience eye and nose irritation, difficulty breathing, coughing, asthma, heart disease, pneumonia, and a whole list of others. Another study, even in India, they were talking about the effect of these things on the skin, with skin cancer, as well as premature aging, but I would be more concerned about the skin cancer. Macon-Bibb County, they just recently, beginning in January this year, they seem to have gotten on board and understand the importance of picking up yard debris, so they began their program. So it's not anything that's new or that's weird to request yard debris pickup. We even have it right here in our own city. So let's think about that. Now, when I talk about expanding the service, I always hear it costs too much. It just costs too much. So I'm hoping that cost is not the only thing that we're looking at, because when I look at what we're paying now, I don't see how it can just be so expensive that we can't do it. Maybe you're looking at something that I'm not. Currently, I pay $43.29 a quarter. The city pays $50.10 a quarter. That's about a $6.81 difference. Okay, and if you break it down per month, then they're paying $16.70 a month, and we're paying $14.43. So the difference there is only $2.27. $2.27. So in my mind, I'm thinking, all these years we've been burning, and for $2.27, we could have possibly implemented a program that could have had a positive effect on our lives and our quality of life. I think about the young children whose lungs are still developing. I don't know if any of us have really thought about it that way. I know I didn't for a long, long time. But these kids, their lungs are still developing. And we have this smoke and fire and all these chemicals being emitted, and it's affecting them. So I want to do all I can that would have to prevent that. Now, I don't really understand why I'm being told that it costs too much. I really don't, especially when you look at the numbers that I just talked about with what I'm paying versus the city. And I don't know anything else to say to you or any other way to say it other than we are talking about our health. We are talking about our property if the fire spread. We're so close, and even you took a tour, shall I say, and could see that our community is highly dense. We got houses right behind houses in some cases, right there, almost look like we're in each other's yard. So that's a risk. That fire is a terrible risk to someone who's burning outside. And I'm just going to ask you to think about that. Think about the young children. Think about them developing. And also think about those $2. $2.27. So I ask you to support us in this effort to help us make a better quality lives for ourselves. Thank you.
Gentlemen, it's a unique opportunity to engage in the discussion here, so.
Okay, so Jason, you can answer this one for me.
Sure.
The city picks up yard waste, not GFL.
GFL does.
GFL
It's
picks
part of,
up-
it's part of their
contract.
contract.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They pick up leaves and
Mhm.
limbs and,
Mhm.
really?
Yeah. And I'm sure that's based on square mileage. And when you look how dense the city of Thomaston is versus vast Upton County, I think that's gonna throw the $2 difference out the window. Because we got some county roads that's probably equal to half the miles of road inside the city limits.
Mr. Chairman, I think I can add, in obviously, shortly before Ms. Prather came to visit me at the office, I had already had a meeting scheduled with GFL. They had some leadership changes, and we discussed this generally. Obviously, the board had not tasked me to do any research, but I thought it'd be interesting to get their feedback on it. Number one, they wouldn't be interested in performing the duties in the way that the city does. They said, now, if we were going to come up with some kind of containerized where they could come and, because keep in mind, our contract with for our unincorporated residents is wildly different than what it is inside the city limits. They do rear load, a very manual process where they actually grab your can, roll it to the back of the truck, and tip it over. There's a lot more you can do with a rear load. Ours is an automated, because as Commissioner Ellington shares, I mean, we're not very densely populated, so they have to drive from point to point to point. They can't have guys riding on the back. So an automated. So I said, if we were going to make that optional and have a separate container, is that something you would consider? Probably not, was the answer, if it was not going to be compulsory. Now, I said, if you made it compulsory, we would probably be interested in discussing, and it would probably be in the 40 to 65% increase range. He said, now, until you put out an RFP for that, I really can't tell you until we can run the numbers. He said, but it'd probably be pretty expensive. And then lastly, of course, I'll say this to the board, and Ms. Prather and I have been back and forth with it when it was just she and I. But in the end, even if, say, you had containerized compulsory, it doesn't handle the rest of the debris, especially like wood, limbs, and other things, so there's still going to be a significant amount of burning that people would do. And I'm just not sure anything that we did would prevent people from burning it rather than containerizing it and having it picked up. To me, to achieve what Ms. Prather would like to achieve, you would have to enact a countywide burn ban. And number one, I'm not sure if the board has that authority, or two, has the political will to do that. I mean, because obviously that activity to large landowners, I think, is pretty important to their ability to manage their property. So those are all things that I said in a conversation with Ms. Prather as well, but I just wanted to just kind of catch you up to where she and I were when we were discussing this. And I just had indicated to her, I said, until such time as the board asked the staff to study this and or to put an RFP out for it, that would take, a great deal of time and effort from the staff. And I need to make sure that, I told her I get my guidance from the board, and, it's not something I would recommend we study or recommend we implement, but if it's, so I left it at that. So, and I think that about covered it. We talked about other communities as well, Macon, Bibb, and then Columbus, Muskogee. Obviously,
Do we know what Macon Bibb does?
Pardon?
Do we know what Macon Bibb does? I mean, is it
containerized? No, it's theirs is not. The one thing I do know is not containerized, and Columbus is not containerized either. It's rear load. They rear load.
What was that, ma'am?
Do I get to ask questions?
In this form, yeah. I mean,
What I'm hearing, if I'm hearing it correctly, is that it seems as if you're not as concerned about this as we are. This is the feeling I'm getting from what I'm hearing. So my question would be, if this is something that all the studies are indicating that is a health risk, and if we, just looking at what we're paying now, it's no big cost for what we're paying now. Has anyone done a cost analysis on this to see really what the numbers are? Has anyone done that?
well, no, and Jason, correct me. So, what would drive that is it would be, would this be compulsory? I mean, would we say, okay, in this area or countywide or whatever, that we make it mandatory that you do it. Like right now, it's mandatory in the county that you have trash service.
Right.
So this would be an additional service that we would have to make mandatory as one option. The other option is if you do it voluntarily, and then if you did it voluntary, I guess my question to you is, how many of your neighbors would do it? I mean, I'm sure not everybody would. And we understand, because Mr. Tinsley and I have talked about this several times about, is there a way to look at the higher density areas in the county, like Lincoln Park or some of the other neighborhoods that are like R1, R2 zoned, where, if you go to some of these neighborhoods and you strike a match to a burn pile, you're affecting your neighbors. I mean, it happens. I mean, I've seen it. I've got friends that live in R1, R2 areas that have burn piles, and so and I don't live in a high density area, and I know that when I burn my pile or my neighbors burn their pile, smoke goes everywhere. I mean, you can see it. So I just don't know. I don't know what the solution would be, because you'd have to define it to where a company would be interested in making the numbers work, because we're not going to find anybody do it for $2.27 more a month. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And because of the difference in the trash pickup between the city and the county, even though it's the same company.
It's a completely different service.
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, just thinking outside the box, because it is a unique situation because it is so dense. Obviously, that's not the whole county, but it's an area that's touching the city. Would there be a possibility to have a discussion with the city to see if there is a high density area like Lincoln Park where they could try to include that in their service with some offset through us?
I think that's something I could definitely look into. We would have to define what those areas would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it would have to be compulsory, in my opinion. It couldn't be a la carte. If they would be interested in doing it.
I mean, it's
But,
compulsory in the city anyway.
because it's part of what you're charged for it, whether you use it or not
Yeah.
in the city. That's right.
And then one of the other concerns is putting yard debris by the road in the county. You know, if you're in the city, you know, if Mr. Tinsley puts yard debris out his front yard, there's a street and there's a gutter, curb and gutter there, which is a different challenge. In the county, it's in the ditches. So, you know, how they would manage to get that picked up would be a challenge. And then it would clog up the ditch system. And then we would have other issues associated with floods and pipes getting clogged and other things. So it's not an easy solution. And then when you get it all said and done, what do you do when that neighbor, because believe it or not, people don't always follow the rules. Somebody's gonna get out there and burn it regardless because they feel like it's by right because the burn ban is open. So then it becomes an enforcement issue for us. And then who's going to enforce it? You know, there's a lot of little issues, and we talk amongst ourselves a lot of times about unintended consequences when we make rules and or make decisions. Okay, what did we not think about? So, but I don't think anybody up here disagrees with any of your points.
And see, that's just the point. You may agree, and you may not agree, because I know some of you don't agree. But the fact of the matter is that there are simpler solutions. And you talk about the ditches and all of this. Well, you know, we already put household trash to the curb. And I had mentioned back in March or April that, and this is my simple solution, would be to have the citizens to purchase these tall leaf bags and put the leaves in the bag and put the bag to the curb and sanitation pick them up. Now, right now, if we're talking about, okay, you're saying $2.27, I'm not saying that you can do that for $2.27. I'm saying that all these years, the city has had yard debris and only paying a difference of $2.27 from what we're paying. And we have been exposed all these years and have not gotten the service. So that has to be considered. Now, bagging, those can be used anywhere. I don't know a community that wouldn't be able to do that. Now, I understood you back in April when you said that the city trucks, you got to think about the ditches, and I think you mentioned the overhead wires. I just say, okay, the city gets their leaves, their debris vacuumed, and we don't. We just have to burn, or we have to hire somebody, and those aren't good choices because we already have sanitation that can do this.
We talk of, we're more or less hearing a lot about leaves, but they are limbs and bushes,
right,
trimmings on other trees and bushes that would also fit into this category too. But how we can't you can't cut your limbs off the tree when you're trimming your hedge bushes and your other growth, and put it in a bag for the trash collector to pick up. There would also have to be some consideration as to what you would do with the limbs and stuff that you cut off your overgrowth on your trees and your hedge bushes. I mean, I definitely commend you for your concern about the smoke and the quality of life, and that's the concern of all of ours. But, you know, we would have to look at trying to get something that was gonna be consistent with the other part of the county. I don't know how we can do it, but just localizing one particular area, or maybe to a couple of areas that may be high density, but without affecting county-wide. I don't, that would have to be a lot more thought and
Well, that's why I was-
talk going into this to make all that happen.
And that's why I was thinking if we could talk to the city just to see if there was an option, because
Yeah.
you could put the parameters on, it has to be an area that's zoned R1 that's touching the city limits in some form. And maybe they would incorporate it in their routes for
I mean,
a fee.
it'd be a wholesale change to it down there. We
Right.
just,
But everybody would have to pay for it, whether they use it or not, and then that's where the problem
That'll
comes.
be
People's gonna say, I don't have a problem with it. Why you making me pay for something I don't need?
so I guess,
And I would just add, Mr. Chairman, that it's not gonna prevent people from burning it, even
Right.
if they've got, even if they're paying for the service.
I guess you guys would be down there, you know, looking at your neighbors that are burning.
No.
Going, "What are you
What
doing?"
I would do, and I have said that, when new things come about, because, let's say the city, okay? If the city and the county both did the bagging situation, each side is gonna have some kind of disagreement with it, because it will be new to both sides. Now, they're used to just getting their leaves vacuum, so you're talking about bagging leaves and dragging them to the curb? Well, that's not heavy, because I can do that. Okay, and Lincoln Park is gonna say, what? Just what you said. I've been burning this, and even the Georgia Environmental Protection Division, they say a lot of communities are used to burning, but there's a hazard to that. It's dangerous, and it should not be done. So nobody's gonna like it. I'm not gonna police them. That's not my job. I would not have made the law, and just like I don't police anybody else wearing their seatbelts or not, I wouldn't be policing them and their garbage unless it was affecting me on my street across from me or whatever. But it can be done, and if people are educated through the media, saying that this is what sanitation will be doing, and it will cost a few dollars more, and you have town hall meetings talking about this. You know, people are not dumb, really. They will understand. And if you're talking about a service that we've been needing for years, and for just a few dollars more, I use the $2.27 because that's what's happening or not happening depending on what side you're on. That's what's happening now. And if people getting the service for just a few dollars more, we will grow into it like we grow into anything else that's new. And that's all I'm saying. Please do not write this off just by saying, oh, it's costly, we can't do this, we have to have a special truck, a special person. I just don't agree with that.
What's your feel for others in the community down there? Are they for this? Are they?
Well, the people that I have taught with, they are.
Okay.
Some people have said, well, you know, we've been doing this all my life, and I say, well, you know, have you thought about the effect? And they say, no, they hadn't thought about it. I hadn't really thought about it until I started doing some research, and I've known people with diseases, and then I started in my research wondering, you know, what was the cause of this really? So yeah, I have three groups of people. Some are just all for it. Some are afraid to speak out about it, but wish somebody would. And then there are those who say, well, you know, I can just continue burning. And I wouldn't be, you know, we all pay for services that we don't use every day. I wouldn't be raking leaves every day. But the service is there. People in the city don't have stuff on a consistent basis. I haven't talked to them, but that just makes sense that they wouldn't. So I just would have a problem with someone say, why am I having to pay it and I'm not going to use it all the time?
Okay, when all the neighbors pile up these leaves on the side of the street, and all of a sudden there come a big strong wind occasionally, as we have here from time to time, and it blows the leaves everywhere else. How do we handle that? We go back and rake the leaves up and do it again?
No,
So
that's.
we couldn't pick the leaves up. The leaves couldn't be picked up every day. Or we probably, normally, whatever date that the trash folks pick up in the Lincoln Park area, you pile your leaves out there that day before, and all of a sudden, 3 or 4 hours, a few hours later, there comes a strong wind and blow the leaves all over again. This needs to be a little bit more of a conversation, I would think.
So the issue for the board really is,
Yeah.
we have a lot of things going on and we control staff time, and we have a list of projects that we're working on. So the question before the board, and we don't have to decide it tonight, is this something that we want to consider adding it to we call it our dashboard, it's our work list that we're working off of. Is this something that we want staff to spend time on researching? I mean, I guess a casual discussion with the city about would not be too time consuming to add that to it. That'd be just check it out. But if it goes beyond that, then we need to put it on our list of things to accomplish, because we put things on there that we want to get done. And so I guess that's where we're at for us, for our consideration. So how about, anybody have a recommendation other than me?
I would agree that we may need to put on our list of things to talk about to be added to the dashboard to get done at some point in time in the future, yes.
Just another idea. I don't see any reason we gotta get with the city. Lincoln Park's a pretty defined area. I think we can simply reach out to our current provider and request a weekly route service for yard waste, and get a quote on it. Simple as that. Get a base quote, and then we're going to be going down. We're going to be meeting with members of that community, discussing the other project down there. And that'll be a great opportunity to have a town hall meeting and tell everybody it's going to cost you this. What do you think? And we'll get our answer right there. And then it's going to be done and done. That's just my suggestion. You'll have the people who's got to pay for it there.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. The ones that want to be there. Let's do that.
All right. Does that sound like a good plan for y'all? Jason, got a little homework.
Yeah, it'd be no issue there. I mean, that doesn't take really any staff time.
Right.
So, yeah.
We really appreciate you, taking this issue on and taking the time and your persistence and diligence. And with that said, we got some work to do.
Okay. So what's the follow-up time?
I'll report it back at your next work session.
Our next work session will be the first Wednesday of August.
And if you don't mind, is that the work session that we're going to get the preliminary results on the
Community Center.
community center, the
Yes.
bids and what the cost?
Yep.
That good.
Okay, and the workshops, we can attend the work session.
They're open meetings,
And what
yes.
time of that?
We typically do those at the airport in the meeting room. I see that look. It's not that far.
Right up there on Delray Road.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay, so that's where it will be, and what time?
Typically are at 9 o'clock. We will post.
We'll post it.
We'll post it. And you got, I'm sure you got our number. And
Yeah.
call and confirm it with Jessica.
But remind mind, there's no back question.
There, but, yeah, to Commissioner Ellen's point, it's a work session. We don't typically engage like this. You can come and hear our discussion because we've got a lot of stuff going on, and so we'll get feedback from Mr. Tinsley on this, and we'll go from there. And then the following Tuesday, we'll have a regular meeting, and you can sign up there, and you can let us know what you think about what we said.
Well,
Or you can talk to us.
Well, I'm really looking for a resolution, so after we get some real numbers, then I will be looking forward.
Yes,
to
ma'am.
the
Thank you.
resolution. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. All right. Next on the agenda is the discussion of the 2022 millage rate. Mr. Tinsley.
So, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to share this officially. We've gone back and forth in emails with some light discussion about it, but what you have in your packet are what we're now believing to be the numbers. So these are, with all the current information that we have, I just want to read the changes that myself and the finance staff will be recommending for the 2022 tax year, and then we can have a discussion just after I go over. So what we're recommending, so the current millage rate, or we call the 2021 millage rate for the for countywide, our general maintenance and operation is 8.280. We'll be recommending a millage rate of 7.36, so that's a decrease of about 0.923, and a change from the last email that I sent that is less than the rollback rate. So what you also have in your packet is the rollback rate calculation, and this is the most recent one from the tax commissioner's office. The rollback rate for that same millage rate is 7.672. Okay, so that's the good news. Secondly, for the joint projects, and this is, remember, largely EMS, related to EMS and to 911 dispatcher salaries. Those are the two main drivers of this portion of your budget. The 2021 millage rate, joint projects unincorporated, is 3.370. To cover those items that I just mentioned and the other ones approved in the 2022 budget, we'll be recommending a 5.43, and that's an increase of 2.059. And lastly, the unincorporated services millage rate, currently 1.160. We're recommending a 1.84. So if you aggregate those, and this is what an unincorporated tax bill would look like in total. The 2021 rate is at 12.810. The aggregate on the recommendation for 2022 would be 14.63. The last thing I would add to that, Mr. Chairman, is that, and as we've discussed publicly in just about every year that I've been here, since the county M&O millage rate is less than the rollback rate, this requires us to have one public hearing for the millage rate adoption. I know that we had the board anticipating that we would have to have 3, but based on this recommendation, we would just have to have 1. So. That is, I will answer any questions that the board may have, and our finance director's in the audience as well, and he can answer any questions you may have. So what we would like to do is have these numbers on your agenda for July for consideration.
Gentlemen, any comments, any questions?
What was the unincorporated increase kind of overall related to?
I'm going to defer to Alan on that one, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Throughout all of them, you can really point back to the increase is largely attributed to increases in compensation for employees across the county. Now, there was our increase associated with the sheriff's office. None of that is within It's a fairly large department. So countywide, except for the sheriff's office, employees received a increase associated with cost of living of 3%, and then the step promotions are 1.8. So that's what's driving the increase. That plus the benefits associated with it.
Now, is that with a fully staffed, or is that
Yes.
what we have?
No, that's
That's fully
anticipated.
staffed.
That's correct.
And how far are we being from fully staffed?
In that whole fund, it's really just the road department that's not fully staffed, and that would be, I think we're at minus 6 positions.
Yeah.
So currently,
And everybody else has got everybody they're supposed to have.
and all the other departments that are in that fund, yes. So.
Anybody else? I think I'll just make an assumption here. I think some of the lack of back and forth on this is this really is no surprise. I mean, we have talked about this since almost a year. I mean, when we did budget hearings back in August, September, October, November. I mean, you prepping and having those budget hearings, and when we had the folks come in and present their budgets, that was the question that was raised back then: is okay, how are we going to pay for this? Substantial increase to compensation for public safety. We knew that when it was presented that it was going to be a stretch to be able to make that on our existing budget. It wasn't going to happen. And then when we lost the ambulance service, when we were notified in December, right after approving it, and we were notified that we were losing our EMS coverage, and due to public sentiment. I mean, it was strong sentiment that the county pursue our EMS licensing and endeavor to get the EMS zone, which we did, and we contracted with a company who, oh, by the way, is doing a phenomenal job. I mean, we've not had really any complaints about quality of service and response times. I don't think we've had any since they took over back in February. And we said back then that and I don't recall the number right off the top of my head what it was, but that is the significant portion. And Alan, you correct me if I'm wrong, that's the significant part of the joint projects millage increase, EMS, correct?
And 911 because of
yes.
Right, higher
Yeah.
wage increase.
So that is a 2.059 mil increase, and that's directly attributed mainly to those two decisions that were made earlier in the year. So, so without that, had we not taken action on, the request to make sure that we were taking care of our public safety employees, that we were competing with other communities and not losing those, our law enforcement officers, our 911 operators, our jail officers. And I think today we still are hurting in the jail. I mean, we're still advertising for jail officers. Bottom line, folks, I'm just saying this is not a surprise. It's not really palatable. I mean, but when you think about it, the cost of goods and services goes up every year, and we're facing it. We're facing it here in the government. We're facing it at home. So that's it. I mean, and as we get ready, maybe at our next meeting, it would be good to maybe have an example of you take a median household And so that when we talk about this at our next meeting and we adopt the millage, if we do so, we can let folks know, say, okay, if your house is of this value and whatever, this is what you're looking at. And so when we're talking about an overall increase of 1.818, what does that mean? You know, to most people that, you know, that doesn't gee-haw, you know, okay, 1.18, what does that mean? Well, if we can share some information on that and help educate folks on what that means, so that when they see their tax bill come November, they're prepared. So, all right.
And Mr. Chairman, the last thing I would add is that those changes obviously are representative of what an unincorporated resident will see. Obviously, everyone benefits from the lowering of the countywide M&O. That will go over. City residents will pay that, but then the city will levy their own joint projects millage rate to reflect the increase in EMS. So it may not be exactly the same as what we're setting.
Yeah. And then we still, I guess there's still discussion with the school board and what they're doing. So
really, until we have all those numbers, then I can give you examples of what both would look like.
But if we can just say, all right, estimating 1.18, what does that mean if your house is valued at, your property's valued at $150,000? Kind of take a median, what that would mean. Okay, any other questions on millage? I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion on this over the next 2 weeks. Hearing no other discussion on that, we'll move on. Item G. And item G is approval of a proclamation for the Thomaston-Upson Chamber President Lori Smith. You know, as we know, as a lot of people know, some may not know, that Lori, and she couldn't be here tonight, is leaving the chamber after 19 years of service to the community. So it would, you know, she has worked hard for this community for a number of years, and we just thought it would be fitting to recognize her service. So with that, I have a proclamation I'll read and ask for the board's approval. So I have a proclamation that says, honoring Miss Lori Smith's service to Upson County on the occasion of her departure as the Thomaston-Upson Chamber of Commerce President. Whereas Miss Lori Smith, better known throughout the community simply as Lori, has served the Thomaston-Upson Chamber of Commerce in a variety of roles, to include service as the Chamber President for a period of 19 years, which concludes on July 31st of 2022. Whereas Lori was singularly responsible for the day-to-day functions of the Chamber, which included promoting local businesses and events aimed at supporting and providing positive growth. Her duties also included promoting and encouraging tourism for Upson County. Whereas Lori displayed exceptional dedication and loyal commitment to the community throughout her service, and while her specific accomplishments are too numerous to list, they include spearheaded and coordinated adult and youth leadership Upson, increasing civic awareness and community involvement for all participants. Served as an integral member of Unite Upson, which engaged leadership across all spectrums of public and private sectors with the purpose of enhancing and beautifying our community for the purposes of improved quality of life and positive growth. As a key influencer, supporter, and participant, she ensured the success of our highly touted Thomaston-Upson Heart and Soul program, providing the community with both a collaborative vision and path forward. Organized routine industry and government roundtable discussions to improve intergovernmental and local business collaboration. Successfully spearheaded efforts in the application and award of a Georgia Department of Economic Development tourism assessment, providing suggestions and guidance for enhancing community-wide tourism efforts. Successfully led the efforts to bring the traveling Smithsonian Museum exhibit highlighting life in rural Georgia, which provided awareness to thousands of visitors. An original member of the Squirrel Bluff Park Advisory Committee, she provided astute advice to this board for planning and development, and served as a volunteer for numerous events for this park. Whereas it is abundantly clear that Lori's service was not based on her employment, but rather driven by her love for her community and fellow citizens. She came to work each day committed to making a difference in Thomaston and Upson County. Therefore, the Upson County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim our profound appreciation to Ms. Lori Smith and wish her the very best in all her future endeavors. So with that, gentlemen, is there a motion to approve this proclamation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, Lori, if you're watching. She's going to be a hard one to replace. I'm glad that's not our job. Okay, with that, comments. Mr. Tinsley.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I do have a few comments, but if I may defer to our engineer who's in the audience, I think he's got a couple of small updates for us, if it would please the board to hear from
Always
Chris.
good to hear from Chris. Yes, sir. What you got?
Thank you, sir. Just want to kind of bring you up on the projects that we've been working on. First and foremost is wrapping up the previous resurfacing project. We're down to 2 roads, I believe, West Jefferson and Quigley, for a few maintenance corrective action items, and then some final striping, and we'll be done with that. As I said before, and I'll report again, we're pleased to say we brought that project in under budget, so that's good. And then once we take final acceptance, we have a 1-year warranty on all the roads that we currently resurfaced in that last period. Today we had the mandatory pre-bid for the 2022 resurfacing and restoration project for Upson County, and that included about 12.5 miles of resurfacing, as well as going to address the parking lot at Hightower Memorial Library, a road crossing at Rocky Creek, and patching some roads that over time the county had to do some, whether it was cross drains or some patching. We're going to bring the asphalt crew in there to finish that up. So very excited about that. We're going to receive bids, I believe we talked about July the 19th, 3 p.m. here. So we do have 3 qualified bidders that showed up today, and looking forward for another successful paving season in Upson County. I think the last total we ran up, this will be 100-something miles that we hit in the past 3 or 4 years. So kudos to the board and the community for getting behind that and getting it taken care of. The Bluff, Squirrel Bluff, is another big project focus that we have going on right now. We've got the platform campsites. So there's 2 of those that are proposed, getting pricing back for contractors on it to bring that back to the county manager to make a decision on move forward on that. We've got the maintenance shop that's under design. We've kind of had a scoping meeting with the staff, met with the commissioners and got direction on it, and that floor plan has been nailed down. The county manager has signed off on it and in the process of finalizing the construction drawings on it to put out on the street for bid as well. And then working with staff and county manager to develop the basically schematic design on the multi-purpose trail that we picked as one of the primary projects at the Bluff to have it in a grant-ready vehicle, if you will. There's a lot of recreation grants out there, DNR, and we want to make sure that we've got a good work product to put out there. So.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple other items. One, and I have for the board's review, it's actually kind of technical, but I've got the meeting minutes from Parish's first scoping meeting with the whole team, which Chris attended. I did talk to our project manager at Parish, and he was very pleased, said the meeting went very well. And he also told me today that we can expect our first draft budget in about 2.5 weeks. So things are moving along at a pretty good pace. I have this for review. I'll submit it to the clerk so she can spread it across the minutes for your approval next time. But it covers anything from plumbing, fire protection, HVAC, electrical, structural, and then general site concerns. So that they had I don't know how long the meeting was, Chris. I think it was several hours.
It was about a day's worth of meetings. So luckily we were able to jump in and jump off as trades were discussed, but the architect and the construction management team did a good job of bringing everything to light. And like the county manager said, very excited about getting that rough order of magnitude pricing in 2.5 weeks. But like,
I have a question on that. I saw in there that it said, what's the side road, Bluegrass? Mm-hmm. Any upgrades to that road was probably not going to be within the budget. and that's a city road, right?
Right.
So I didn't know if there needs to be some more thought put into that, because, you know, that's the second back entrance to the secure parking area, so.
It was definitely suggested that we start talking with the city manager and get some ideas on, you know, if there's some cost sharing aspects. And also, you know, we talked about the DOT right-of-way access and getting, you know, we kind of already had some schematics regarding on how that looks, and been talking with the district office to get that nailed down as well, so.
And the one added comment, you know, you would think it would be as easy as saying, okay, well, this may be a T-Splosh applicable. Well, it wouldn't be in our case because it's a city street, and there's some definite prohibitions against using county for city. So we're going to try to find a creative way to get that road upgraded using other funding mechanisms.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, and then the only other item I have aside from that is that at the last meeting, a constituent of the boards had asked county staff to go look at Allen Road or a potential dip in Allen Road. So I did go down there with county staff myself because I had to look at a few other things in that area. So we rode it a few times, actually got out and walked it. I maintain that it's, I mean, it's not in the best of situations, but it's certainly not in any kind of emergency need of repair. It's something that we're going to have Chris look at it, and maybe eventually in one of the contracts we can add some kind of milling and resurfacing of that area, because it does have a bit of uneven pavement, but I would say that this is nothing emergent that the board needs to be concerned about. So, other than that, that concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jessica, you got anything for us?
No, sir.
Mr. English?
Don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Watson?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to Miss Lori again. Those are going to be big shoes to fill. She's done a lot for the chamber and our community, so hate to see her go, but I understand, and hopefully we can find somebody just as good.
Mr. Ellington?
I don't have any comments now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones? Feel blessed.
I appreciate everybody coming out, everybody watching us in TV land. This is a great time to say it, but I'm going to keep saying it until November. Come this November general election, there's going to be a vote on your ballot to vote for extended homestead exemption for senior people. So make sure, well, you can vote no if you want to, but I would appreciate it if everybody voted yes. And it will not affect 2022's taxes, but it will affect 2023's taxes. So look for that in November when you go to vote general election. Please check yes on the box if you feel that way. And it's a great exemption.
Well, it's not just for seniors.
No.
Everyone benefits.
And it's
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's actually 6 ballot questions, so it covers the gamut of the previous set that we had that were only $2,000. So yeah.
But see, most of us are over the age, so we got a little bit of extra there.
He's not there yet. He wants to draw it back. Here he goes. If you would.
And this is just for anybody anybody here that hears this, but this is for the commissioners. I won't read. But recently I learned, listening to the radio, that Lamar County had on their ballot, one of the questions on their ballot was, do they want to keep their community rural, or do they want to see commercial development? And that community overwhelmingly approved to keep it rural. We might ought to consider a ballot question of that nature here, and because you know it gives the community a way to, the people who put us here gives them a way to answer a question without having to come up here and stand in front of us. And I'd be curious just to see that, because all these decisions we make can impact that. And if we're up here doing what the people don't want, then they're going to get somebody else to come up here and do it.
Is there, could you just check, see what the deadline and what the process would be to add questions of that type to the November ballot? start thinking about what other.
It
we don't
helps
wanna
with
overwhelm.
comprehensive planning, the voters will tell you, they don't have to stand up here, they're not embarrassed, that they're in there, they check that box,
Mash the
say
button.
yes or no, mash the button, they go home, and we'll know the results of it.
Mr. Jones, anything else?
I'm done. Yep, please vote though.
Mr. Wilder?
I just want to, again, thank Ms. Prater for her presentation and her concern about the collection of debris in high-density areas. And I want to mention that the crew started work on the covered bridge, I think, Friday. And they have completed the south side repair of the material on the south side, and right now they are working on the west end of it with the rotted boards on the thing.
You like it?
So far I do. I've gone and watched them do a little work. They moving pretty fast.
I saw some pictures. And
Yeah, they moving pretty fast, and they doing a good job. The cypress look good on the south side, and I don't suspect it'll be much longer. They'll be pretty much finished with it.
They haven't started the roof yet.
They haven't started the roof yet. No. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have. We got a 4th of July holiday coming up pretty soon. Everybody be safe and enjoy the family and whomever else you decide to hang out with.
Can I add one more thing before you go, Mr.
Sir.
Now that we're spending that kind of money on the bridge,
Yes, sir.
is there any way to get some kind of surveillance down there for vandalism? You know?
Gotta get internet
Well,
down.
No, you don't.
Hopefully in a couple months.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I donated a pile of money myself to a local police department and bought like 5 cell cameras for like $12,000 for them to place wherever they wanted to place them. So these are cell cameras. You mount them up there. It's got a cell signal. I guess there's cell service down there, right?
Well, pretty much, yes, and they're supposed to come tomorrow
So
and
they're-
run fiber in the right place.
So anyway, that thing is prone to vandalism every once in a while, and I don't want to see somebody write something nasty all over those brand new boards.
We went through that some time back, and we got trail cams. They didn't do what we had hoped they would do, and unless you can identify the culprit, you just wasted time and money.
Anyway, that's just my comment. I'm done.
I'll reel it back. Y'all have said everything that I had on my list to say. I'll just echo what Commissioner Wilder said. Please enjoy your 4th of July holiday and be safe. And I know a lot of people are traveling. Please come back and with all your fingers and toes, Jason. Oh, congratulations to our CFO. His alma mater just happened to win a national championship in baseball, and that made his day. So it was a good ball game.
Y'all the only ones playing?
It was a good game. It was a good game. So with that, lastly on the agenda is we have an executive session for
Personnel and real estate.
personnel and real estate. So is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We're not going to have any action after the executive session, so thank you all for coming. And with that, we're
Love your hair. I don't know if I could have sat long enough to get my hair done. I don't think it's quite long enough. How much do you think that's?
Yes, thank you, Chris, appreciate it.
Gonna be around tomorrow.
Yes, I'll be here all week.
Tax millage.
You want me to do it like a... Yeah, okay, we can do it. We can do it. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay, gentlemen, we're live. Okay, so we're out of executive session, we're back in our regular session. There being no other business for the board tonight, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you. We're still live.